Isn't it nice?
Yes.
I was so tempted. Huh? What?
No.
Are you still on what? Huh?
I'm here. I hear Gwen fading in and out.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Paul.
Hi.
My house isn't always a mess. I just have a big Christmas present in the background that I'm trying to hide. I can't hear Gwen. Am I doing something wrong? Sometimes Google Meet tries to grab my phone or something. Paul, can you hear Gwen? I'm going to have to try to figure that out. Now I have sound.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't me?
No, my default audio was nothing.
Oh, weird.
And I heard Paul like 5 minutes, like at the beginning of the call. So, but sometimes whatever this is some kind of version of Google Meet, I think, right? Or it's built on top of it.
It's something, I don't know. I don't know.
Google Meet will try whatever the open source framework there is to use this. It'll try to grab my phone, and then it'll try to talk through my phone. Then I'll turn my phone off, and then I'll lose all audio.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it doing that? Like, it's just a computer. Just Zoom. Right? Stop it.
All right, I'm pulling up the live stream here. Oh yeah, it is. We're good. We are live. So looks like we have a few people joining us. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, looks like they can hear us now. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So we have a few people on the thread here. So let's talk let's talk AI. Let's talk about AI and testing. Let's talk about we were kind of pre-gaming this conversation a few minutes ago, talking a little bit about kind of, this shift towards agentic AI, from generative AI, and what that is looking like in the quality space. We've just finished a number of conferences where AI was a hot topic at all of them. And, some demonstrations were shown, both from the perspective of the limitations that those tools offer, as well as some of the values that they offer. And so we want to open it up to our community today to get your thoughts on where you are finding value from this stuff. You guys are using this stuff every day. I still use I use generative AI pretty heavily, partially because I'm in a governance role, and so my role is a little bit different. But I do a lot of I use it a lot to provide do basic analysis and bring data together, and bring data from different sources together. But that's not testing. So I'm interested in how you all are using it today. So Paul, Matt, I would love to hear how you guys, what your interactions are today with it. We'll start there, and then as we get people coming in from and some of the comments coming in from our feeds, we can add those as well.
Can we let Paul go first? I think he's more pro.
Absolutely. Paul, are you there? Uh-oh. Now we can't hear Paul. Charles, can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. I think we're good on the hearing. Let's start with you, Matt, and we'll go from there. Because you can come at it with your perspective, and then we can get people weighing in on what their thoughts are.
Let's try to start positive. In this day and age, it is very common for me to I'm trying to figure out how to install a very specific Ruby library on a very specific version of Ruby, and it's not working or something. I'm trying to launch, you find an open source framework. So a lot of what I've been doing lately is coverage, churn, complexity metrics on software, because that's where the bugs are going to be. You've got one really ugly module in the bowels of your code that is changing a lot. That's going to be where, and happens to be where there are a lot of bugs are. That's where we're going to want to focus our improvements of testing and our improvements of the code activities in a way that reduces risk. So I'm trying to install so I find an open source framework. It doesn't run on a Windows. I find an open source framework. It needs you to install Go. I don't have permissions to install Go on this particular box. I have to go get the permissions to install Go. I install Go. It needs some other thing which I don't have permissions for. And back and forth it goes. So I use AI to say, how the heck do I install this thing on this? Where do I find the button? I know there's a button somewhere. So I just had to do this. I had to do how do I get C++ complexity metrics out of SonarQube? And how do I get a language that is not C++ or a dot extension that is not unexpected to compile and be evaluated to C++? Because it's a curly brace language with for loops that look all the same. So even though it's a custom language, the complexity is going to be the same. And I used AI to get those answers, and it was helpful. Much more helpful than Googling, because when you Google, you get something that doesn't work, and you try something else that doesn't work, and you finally in a forum post somewhere, you find the answer that you really need. So I found that to be very helpful. In terms of broadly AI, you can use it for test design. You can use it for test data, but frequently I kind of fell off of that, because when you need large scale, high frequency test data, give me a bunch of first names and last names and addresses and da-da-da-da-das, it won't generate what you want. It's wrong. You have to fiddle with it. You might as well use a classic test data generator for that.
Right.
So and I'm almost at the point now. We've got 2 years here. When has AI ever kept any of its promises? It's always just 6 more months from now. You'll see there's going to be a tool coming. Gwen and I were in a meeting October, almost exactly a year ago. I think you were in the room, when a big name in the testing sphere said that Google was going to open source a tool by the end of the year which would you would have two battling robots where one was going to do the development and one was going to do the testing, which
Mm.
doesn't really make sense on a lot of levels. Like, where's it going to install the box to run against?
Yeah.
How are
Yeah.
you gonna keep that so the outside world can't see it while you're working? What about the security concerns? What are the accounts and passwords? Like, how's it gonna work? And just start at high level. Oh, you'll see. It's gonna create the developer and the tester, and the bots are gonna go back and forth until they're done and it works. Well, that never came out. That doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know where he got the idea. He said it in such a credible way that it could be claimed that he meant the end of the following year, but it's the end of the following year. It doesn't exist. What's he talking about?
Yeah.
So, and we were just in a call and someone talked about a great demo they saw. Well, a very experienced person working with a very particular set of technologies was able to vibe code an app and vibe code some tests. And I ran a testing challenge on my website a couple of months ago, and someone did something similar. And the guy said he can 750 tests, right? In 1 hour, this person came up with like 120 automated tests against my website. Check them into version control.
Yeah.
With 1 hour time limited on your honor tests. So they didn't actually look at any of the tests. They're all garbage. They don't test anything important. They don't even make sense. So when is this stuff actually going to be out? When are people actually going to use it? Are we going to be able to run it against our own code bases that are in Git and have high security? What's it going to do? And the answer to all that is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the most arrogant thing I'm going to say this year, but I don't know who the best testers in the world are. But if you made a list, like, I'd probably be on it. In terms of being able to understand genuine software engineering principles, I don't know what they're talking about. And I've said, I don't know what they're talking about for 2 years now, and we're still where we were before. So you can use it for test data generation. What I've seen it really good at, if you're a coder, is you can do it for autocomplete for Copilot, and it'll save you 30-40% of your time. You can do both Copilot in terms of like writing code, and it'll just try to figure it out. But a lot of that, like, I'm a professor, so a lot of that is kind of the student class enrollment SQL database library stuff, which has been done a million times. It has all this data to source against it, regular patterns. So usually when we do production coding, it's got to understand all the dependencies, which may or may not be in memory for it to. So you get worse results with that. But autocomplete, and to some extent, sometimes you can just, like, plain English, and it'll make a function for you. I think that's okay. I have friends that say that they are using it to generate whole program. Non-technical people say they're using it to generate whole programs.
Yeah.
We haven't seen any of those in the wild yet that anyone would download and use. So,
right. Yeah. Not at scale anyway.
I don't.
Yeah.
So I'm skeptical. Like, I'm kind of, what's the Jerry Maguire? Show me the money. Show me the money.
Right. Yeah. We've had Tiffany join us. Tiffany, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe give us your experience and view of the current state of AI in testing? Maybe. Maybe she's having some technical problems as well. I know Paul said he was going to rejoin us. How about the rest of you out there? I see some comments coming in here. So looks like Charles says, how have I used AI-based tools? Not all that much yet. He's generated test data with ChatGPT, created simple PowerShell scripts for test automation, did troubleshooting of test automations logs. Yeah. So little small wins there. Troubleshooting of otherwise looked into AI-based low-code test automation tools, no vendor lock, and access to test automation codes are critical to me. Found one I like and I can share. Quick and easy way to generate some test data. So it looks like we're finding some value around test data generation in some cases. When you guys talk about test data generation, so are you doing like large scale test data generation, or is it just like like basic things here and there, little blurbs of stuff that you're using intermittently? Like when you say test data, what do we mean by test data? Using cursor to build out some test cases. Generated testing. Welcome, Milan. Milan, I would love to get your perspective.
Hello.
Like you've been, yeah. So I mean, you were with us at CAST, and so what have you been doing with AI since then? Have you found yourself utilizing it more? Found some value in it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it. First of all, thanks for inviting me to another caffeinated session. And
Yay!
Matthew, I was hearing your perspective as well, and I think kind of resonates that where we are right now. Like there's no clarity, but then the whole world is going through it, not just the testing world or QA world, right? From my perspective, I have been experimenting a lot. So, for example, other than talking about the big names, I was able to run a complete language model on my laptop without
Mm-hmm.
internet, and
Yeah.
I'll be soon posting a video about that, and to see the capabilities those have and how much you can experiment on your own local laptop.
Yeah.
That was mind-boggling because all the effort and hard work gone behind the scene is now public, right?
Yeah.
The foundation models are public, and obviously there was a glitch where I tried to ask a question, but then the answer came from the 2-year-old data because of course it was an offline
Sure.
model, it was not trained.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
but cool, I mean, you don't have to pay, and you can build a lot of things around that. Not only that, now we have really good tools in the market where you can use these models as well as access your own local database, so your data is not going anywhere. So the privacy part of it, I think, gradually is becoming an easy option to experiment before you roll out to prod for testing or non-testing for test data generation or like anything, right?
Yeah.
But one point I think Matthew was speaking about, it takes me a lot of time to go through basic troubleshooting and debugging. I was in that situation I think last week when let's say I was actually setting up a APM automation framework for my team, and I spent a lot of time with a very well-known enterprise provider which we have in our company for chat and whatnot. It struggled. It did struggle a lot for me, in to simply help me set up the first basic framework working in complex environments such as Android, iOS, APM, and then eventually I had to write my own code, which I had done it like 5 10 years back, and that was pretty much the solution. But then once I had the model set up, the working in environment all done, it did help me in few of the scenarios where I had to repeat copy paste this code, smartly creating these files. But yeah, so I would say still mid early days of experimenting the new AI stuff, but totally getting into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear from others. What do they think?
Yeah. I just posted some statistics that I had pulled in preparation for today.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because you have a majority pursuing Gen AI and QE. You
Mhm.
have 15% are doing it at scale, right? So like drastic difference, right? Lots of them are pursuing it, but not
True.
sure how to scale it to the
Mm.
enterprise. You get a lot, 80%, 81% of development teams using AI in testing workflows, with a third experiencing negative consequences from AI accuracy. I would imagine it's probably more than a third. That seems a little low.
Mm.
Um, and people are saying a 19% productivity boost, but highly variable. And when you look at the metrics around this, like it seems in line with what we're seeing, right? Like it's yes, people are starting to see value from it in ways that are limited and localized, right? But as far as, you know, I think some of the promises that I've seen is like 80% of your code is going to, or your testing is going to be replaced by you know,
any agent, AI agent, let's say.
agentic
How
AI.
long have
And
they been telling us that?
right, exactly. Well, yeah, and that continues to be a thing. And yet and again, it's continued to be such a big trend at all of the conferences this year, right? Like we've had many speakers who have been pushing this idea that you can just have your agents go do it all for you. And you know, it is this, it's like having the automation conversation all over again, right? Because that's essentially what it is. It's the same conversation. It's just, yeah, the tech is a little more interesting, right? Maybe it's not really intelligent, any more intelligent. It's just maybe it has ways of doing things a little more dynamically, but it's the same conversation. Like you know, it's these agents still have to understand what they're shooting for, what they're trying to actually, like when you talk about the quality factor, right? They have to understand what quality actually is, and the only people that are going to tell them that are the testers, the human minds behind it. But if they don't have that, like if they're not trained on that, they're not clearly, they're just going to go and run and do what? Exercise the
correct.
code. That's not testing, that's running code. So yeah, it's
The only difference would from that, a decade old when Selenium and all these tools were coming in from manual to automation. I think that journey lived and took around 10 plus years. The big difference here is, I think now in like end of 2025, things are changing every month. I don't know if you know,
yeah
ChatGPT is already gonna be deprecating its first model mid of next year. It's already too old to be used. For example, it's in their official deprecation notice, right? That is one thing. But I think the key thing is, if you look from a very positive, perspective, agentic testing, agents testing, model testing, evaluation. There is a new era of testing going to be coming in. A lot of opportunities going to be building up, because so far everyone is using foundation models, or models being hosted by these big companies. But eventually, when the privacy and real production use cases will come into picture, companies will have to take those basic foundation models, wrap it up into their own flavor. And
yeah
that's where a lot of development and testing practices, which would be more in-house, would
yeah
come into picture. And I see there would be
yeah
a lot of jobs coming in, the new roles. I don't know if you already know, agentic test manager is already a role in the market. And I don't know if you have heard about forward deployment engineers, those who do the whole agentic stuff, as well as, they can go in front of customer and, do a customer showcase. So I think the whole, not just the testing side of the world, but overall, I think the engineering and management stuff is working pretty fast.
yeah and again, you know, that's where I guess that's where I want to see the data, right? Like I really want to see, you know, you see people using it, and you see people going, okay, yes, I used it for this, but it took me 5 times longer to do it that way, so it's easier for me to just do it myself, right? And that's, I see a lot of that happening right now. And I think part of that is like, we're kind of over that delusion hump, right? Where people are starting to go, oh wait, it's not magic. And you know, maybe we need to rethink this and figure out a better strategy for it. Although, you know, I don't think that that's the case maybe at the executive level in some cases. I think they're still convinced that it's going to save the day and they're never going to have to pay somebody again. It's all going to be what, they're just going to have AI do it all.
Well, what
I
do we
think,
do?
yeah. Go ahead. Please go ahead, Matt.
What do we do with McKinsey, who first said, this is, you got to do it or you're going to die, and is now saying, we studied 5,000 of these implementations that cost, a minimum of $12 million, and
Yeah.
the net value returned was nothing.
Right.
Like, what do we do with that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think that probably came from the R&D cost of the the business, and not all the R&D projects kind of go successful, as we know, right? It's all that's why they are called as R&D, they're not called as projects. So, and I think Google also posted it, right? Like they everyone is building it so fast that the human is taking time. So
Yeah.
maybe we need to slow down, or we need to be very specific. So software development is a is a side of business which can pick up these things fast, but will end user also pick it fast and understand what they are sharing their data and the things with the AI? Maybe not, maybe yes, depending on cases. Will all the banks start using AI agents for everything? Probably no. Will a small company whose business is basically building chatbots, right, will they use AI? Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It has to be on the business context as well, the choice, like people are making.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very contextual in terms of
it's
where you're going to
contextual.
see it. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think, coming at it from a financial services perspective, like there's always that I recently did a presentation here at the bank around the future of banking, and because banking is such a highly regulated world, um we have to be very, very careful when we consider all of these new technologies and what they mean. And we're already behind the curve, right? Like, because banks are slow when it comes to that kind of thing. Um and it's not just about implementing the AI pieces of it, right, that become a problem, but it's trying to implement all of these like very advanced technologies, knowing full well that your existing technologies are so far behind, right? And
Hmm.
then trying to expect all of that to work seamlessly together. And I think that there's a disconnect in terms of understanding that in order to have AI add real value, you have to have clean data, and you have to have well orchestrated enterprise systems that like you understand, like you fundamentally understand where the data is and how you're controlling it and how you're securing it, and then bringing the AI component on top of that, that enables that, right? Because now you know where it's safe to implement AI and where it may not be safe to implement AI. And yeah, you're even still going to probably run into some surprises here and there, but for the most part, like, all of those fundamentals though are not in place in the majority of these environments today. And so it is weird because the conversation is so focused on we have to get AI, we have to have it in, we have to have it be using it and using it and using it. And it's like, where is this coming from? Where is this really coming from? And do we actually know what that means? Or is it just a bunch of buzzwords, right? And so I guess my question for the group today is like, how do we as quality professionals have those conversations in our environments and help our teams look at these things with a critical eye, with a lens of, yes, it's all great. Yes, it's all new. Yes, it's exciting, right? Let's not dampen the fact that, yeah, the tech is cool. Let's think about what it actually means to implement it, and what problems we ultimately want to solve with it, right? Because I think we're not even like trying to figure out what problems we're solving. We're just going out and going, yes, implement AI, right? And instead of going, okay, yes, we have this problem and we think AI is a really good solution for it because of this. And
You know what it reminds me of? Sorry
yeah,
to interrupt. It reminds me of, I know I told Gwen this before, but I don't know if I've said it here. It reminds me of XML. I
yeah,
remember 2001, 2002. There was XML magazine. There was XML conferences. Someone literally said to me, it was Steve Hook. He's still practicing in software. He said, "You don't know what you're going to use it for. Just use XML everywhere as we figure this stuff out." And I had a manager about 5 years later say the same thing about metrics. She said, "We're just going to go measure a bunch of stuff. because customer service has measurements for the number of calls and how long they take and the number of first-time resolutions. And we look like idiots in software engineering. We just need to go measure a bunch of stuff. And I said, it's going to create a bunch of dysfunction.
Yeah.
And she could not understand, look, what are you talking about? Dysfunction.
Yeah.
Between you and me, I wonder if that was kind of the goal, because we could then present numbers to the board that made ourselves look better every month. But
Yeah.
but it rewarded the wrong behavior. Said, no, we got to be really careful about what we measure, because you're going to get it. So that you have this hype. When I see what is happening right now with the investments, the incestuous investments between NVIDIA and OpenAI and Oracle, it tells me we're getting to the end of the cycle where they realize they're not going to make money. So what I will say is this. This is so hard. So we've had a lot of testers for several years saying this stuff isn't going to work. And we're starting to have a sea change where there's so much demand, where those same people are now saying, take my how to use testing with AI class. I think most of the use cases are pretty obvious, like ask ChatGPT questions for stuff that you need either data or how to do things. It'll tell you, and that might or might not be right. Plus the autocomplete. It's going to be another tool in our toolbox, just like XML came. And I'm still on the like, these people are making promises that they don't have evidence that the promises will work. Why are we believing them? Train. I know that's rough, but that's where I am. And if I'm wrong, I'll just retire. It's all right.
Yeah, don't retire, Matt. But I get
Not yet, Matt.
I get
Not
your.
yet.
We're still gonna be doing more caffeinated sessions, but I kind of partially agree to both of what both of you said. I have a different perspective. So obviously, like, to simplify everything. So earlier we used to hire people to get things done, then we used to buy tools to get things done. Now we are buying AI to get things done faster. So from any CXO level, that's always the basic thing, right? Because that's how your share prices and everything is being tracked as a company. But going back, I tell this often to juniors, SDETs, QAs, that think about the basic of software testing, that is your software development test lifecycle, and think about what are your big blocks. You get designs from UI UX team, then you have developers writing the code and building the code with the help of DevOps, and then you're testing and blah blah blah. So try to break them down in your own company and business, and come as a team and discuss, is this worth automating through AI or not? If yes, would it be good for us so that we can focus on the other things which AI is still struggling to, kind of get a quality output? So it's a team level discussion, breaking down the whole business from technology and business point of view and focusing on one thing at a time. Always start with the simplest, easiest thing. I usually tell people when they ask me where to start, I would say documentation, automate your documentation, use AI or not. That is the safest, least riskiest area to experiment anything, especially when your document is not the core part of your business, which kind of goes right in front of customers. Start there and see, does it really give you value? Because there are some part of businesses which you have to be compliant and being auditable, so you have to do
Mhm.
those, right? Then why not automate those things
Yeah.
through AI or not? So I usually tell them, and then try to, obviously, in man hours, in cost, in server fees and all that, you can get the difference very quick within days and weeks. Then you can rethink again and say, oh, this area is really good. Let's focus this while we are also exploring the next blocks to be, looked upon. And I think
Yeah.
the conversation should keep on going rather than, as you said, going, here is AI, do everything. I don't think that's
Right.
going to work very, very efficiently for any org.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean it's where we're getting this situation where companies are spending the millions and millions of dollars, and then they're having to report that there is no gain, there is no return on it, because it's failed. And I mean, we had warnings like we had um, even at CAST this year. Um, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on her name? Or,
Oliver?
or
Olivia?
keynote.
Yeah, Olivia, right? She was talking about
Olivia,
the
thank you.
ethics, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Olivia. Yeah, so I mean Olivia Gamblin was saying, 95% of these initiatives will fail. And she's absolutely right. Like, now, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't play around with these things, right? And that we shouldn't be
Hmm.
innovating. Like
Hmm.
that's not the case not to innovate. It's just
Hmm.
setting the right expectations for recognizing that this is a fundamentally new technology that, one is not the end all be all tool to fix every problem, right? It's just not. It's not this silver bullet that we want to pretend it is. Just
Hmm.
like the web wasn't a silver bullet for,
Exactly.
for
Yeah,
all of the
that's true.
problems that existed, right? So we, trying to get a sense of the capabilities out there and where they best apply, I think, and having some strategic thinking around that is so key to this. And I'd love to see us have more of that, especially within the quality space, right? And I know that's hard because we often get that, and I know teams right now especially are feeling the heat of it, because because they are going, well, we just don't need QA anymore. Yeah, we can just have
Hmm.
the developers do it, and AI will do it. And that's, I mean, we've seen that. Matt, you and I have been around for a while in this world, and we've seen the ebb and the flow of this, and
It's
it'll come back.
it's interesting to see this kind of, I mean, it's capitalism, right? You want to minimize your employees. Sometime in the 1970s, they figured out they could have self-service gas stations, and they got rid of a bunch of people, and it was good. So we've been trying to minimize testers for a long time. Now through AI, we're trying to minimize developers. Developers are feeling it.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
One thing I'll add that might be helpful is go look at Salesforce rhetoric. Go look with the interview with the CEO of Salesforce about what he says is possible with his product. Then go to Trailhead, which is their free online create a VM, run Salesforce, do the things environment, and try to actually take the training. I'm certified. I'm Trailhead certified in something force. That is their first AI, their second AI offering. I think they're up to a third one now that I haven't taken. And it is painful and awkward and hard. And okay, so what you're really doing, what we're really doing is you have to have a company with APIs that are structured perfectly so that you can have a chat bot. And when someone says, can I get the list of my last 10 orders? Then you connect keywords to say, oh, orders, that's the orders API.
Hmm.
You can blat out the orders API, but you're always going to blat out whatever JSON the orders API blats out. And then maybe it's smart enough. It might be smart enough to do from and to dates if you hard code it and you type it into the chatbot the right way. And then you can say, oh, here's my last order. Can I cancel? So now conceptually, if you were on the customer service team, you could cancel an order for shoes through the chatbot instead of going to the UI, which is what I thought they were doing like 2 years ago with this AI stuff. When they said we've eliminated customer service,
Yeah.
it turned out all that meant was we've taken all of our text pages and we've injected them into a GPT so that when you type, how do I do a thing, the chatbot will tell you so you don't have to find it through text
It
screens.
regurgitates it to you. Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
that meant. And now it's
Hmm.
possible. It's painful. It's awkward. You have to have your API set up right. You have to have your API set up right, not to be consumed by a web page, but to be understood and processed by a human. But then you compare that to the rhetoric that they're making, and you say, can this product fulfill this promise that it is making? I can objectively go and test it, and this is one of the leading edge companies at the forefront of the AI revolution, or whatever rhetoric you want to use. And it's what there is a little there, but it is there's a word, equivocation. It's where you say a word that has multiple meanings. They're going to fall for the first one, but you actually mean a second one. So you trick them into believing something, and then if they ever come back to you and they say you didn't keep your promise, you say, well, when you think about, we did this 25 years ago at the start of my career. You need to respond within 3 seconds to a query request for a report. We would make a pop-up that said, and this wasn't my, like, I just came into this company, I already done it. It wasn't my idea, but the pop-up said, working on it. Within 3 seconds,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's a solution.
Then eventually you get your report in 45 seconds, a minute, something like that. It got worse and worse and worse the longer I was there because the databases got bigger and scaled linearly.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure the queries were, highly optimized.
So equivocation, it's really kind of, they let you do it in just marketing, but you get in trouble when you do it with investors.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Holmes, I think she's still in prison. Elizabeth Holmes went to prison for using that rhetorical style with investors. And she did a couple other things, like she would misplace her tenses. So she would have a deal that didn't exist that was potential. Like, wouldn't it be great if we could put this life-saving device on a helicopter? But she made it sound like it was already there. You just can't, right?
Yeah.
That exact same thing was happening in AI.
Oh, for sure.
We can go test it. I would dare submit to you the testing community, because of our role, has an obligation to call bullshit. We have an obligation, and you can say whatever you want about me, but I've done my job here. And we'll see what the world is like in 20 months. My guess is in 24 months, we're going to be having the same conversations about the same stuff, and it's going to be 6 months away.
Yeah. Well, I think it's to your point, right? And Matt, we've had this conversation multiple times. It's the show me the money thing, right? Like, show me the implementation, show me what it was before, show me what you applied, and show me what the return was after. Show me it working.
If you want me to be positive, there's a guy on this chat right now in the comments, Phil Kirkham, who's really solid with us. Like, skills were good enough that he got a job moving from the UK to the USA based on his testing ability. I've known him for a long time, and he's listed several good.
Hi, Phil. Welcome.
He's listed several good, solid first, second base hits.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Boilerplate type stuff.
Yeah, and I think that to the extent that we look to those, to pick up those, to get 5, 10, 15, 20% improvement here, there, everywhere.
Yeah.
What we're going to find is that the delay is actually a communication human process waiting for somebody else delay. It's never like, it's very rarely like I had the delay is me building out the framework, but we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Okay, the framework is done. I'm waiting on you even faster.
Right.
Good.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. One thing, Charles Lane, thank you for listening and participating in the conversation, Charles. He mentions a good case for AI is the tester fatigue and the fatigue that comes, and I'm assuming what you mean is the cognitive load associated with testing in general, and just keeping up and keeping up with technology, keeping up with all of the workload and the scope that continues to grow. Is that what you're referring to, Charles? And I would like to understand that. I'd like to dig into that a little bit, because I think it has been a double-edged sword in terms of cognitive load, right? Because it has taken technology evolution to a whole new level, which means things are changing a whole lot more rapidly.
Correct.
And we're not keeping up. We're not keeping up, right? And the reality is that nobody's keeping up, right? It's not just us. So cognitive load and the speed of devs. I would argue that in terms of the speed of devs, and when you're talking about vibe coding and having them push things through a whole lot faster, I would love to see evidence of that, because that hasn't been my experience with that, at least with engineers. Like, the good engineers that I know who are using co-pilots as part of their dev process find that in most cases they have to go back and rewrite the code anyway and reformat it and refactor it. And so it's almost easier for them to just build the code out themselves right now. And so I would imagine that if you have engineers who are relying entirely on vibe coding to get their stuff done, from a tester's perspective, you're going to just be there. There's going to be a massive increase in churn between that developer's code and the return, the return of buggy code, right? And getting code back to them, and because it's got issues. But that's my first thought on that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll pick it up first because I have some immediate thoughts. So again, like, is that developer doing it the vibe coding from scratch? I mean, did they have a framework? If no, they don't have an option. They want to build something very fast. They want to build a POC and then kind of show the work, right? And usually when you start a project, a company or a developer or a QA, like, they're fine. They understand there would be buggy code and issues. But you're right. In that phase, when there is no code base or context, there are going to be chances of high issues, and they will have to rewrite a lot because
Yeah.
the context is here in their mind, and then they're trying to explain to this agentic software, this is happening in my mind. Human mind has billions of parameters like LLMs, but then chat is focusing on that specific coding assignment which it's kind of being used for. But the other part is, let's say you already have a mature framework, it's working, it's in production and all that, then you're using some kind of copilot or chat or agentic. I have seen over the time these tools have gotten smarter. They can read the whole project, and their accuracy is increasing from X% to Y%, can be 10 to 90, 80 to 70, I don't know. And that's where again the role of evaluation or evals the testing team is playing. We are also building and testing guardrails, like, was it better, is it safe, is it giving the right outputs, is it asking the right questions? So I think one thing is for sure going to happen in next couple of years, or maybe faster than that. We would not be tied to a role of QA and dev. There would be something other than that, which might be
Yeah.
end to end. And because writing code was the tough part for a manual QA, a functional QA. Now that has been automated, so they can write code as well, right? And like I was mentioning previously, like, forward deployed engineers is a very fancy role which kind of does the same thing, and that's evolving. OpenAI, Google, everyone is hiring them. So there is an evolution which is,
Is hiring what role? Sorry.
the role name is forward deployed engineer, and
Forward
it's a
deploy
deployed
engineer.
deployed engineer. Yeah, I was reading about it last week, and they have become pretty much on demand, these roles, right? Because
What's their role?
so I would encourage you to go ahead and look at them. I'll try to
Okay.
find few links, but this just
Yeah.
think about a engineer who can do development testing and also do customer showcases, right? Like a developer advocate, right? So the all in one kind of combination. But again, every company have their own list of job descriptions. But in general, that's my understanding, and those roles
Yeah.
are becoming pretty on demand. And then going back to your thing, right? Yes, the vibe coding does work when you don't have anything. It's helpful to build the core scratch framework. It might help when you already have the context, right? So, and again,
Yeah.
vibe coding is not a product of a single company. Everyone is trying to achieve that perfection, or 90% accuracy or whatnot, right? So evolution, right? So we are going through
Yeah.
that phase of manual versus automation, or this versus that kind of thing. That's my
Yeah.
understanding of this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting times we live in. Interesting times we live in. Well, so Matt, in terms of your next venture with AI, I'm curious, like, what are you most interested in? Because I know you are definitely on the more cynical side of the AI debate. So what?
I think it's an honest kind of conversation. We are not.
Yeah,
I don't see
honest.
taking it as a yeah.
Yeah. So what?
And
I
this
mean,
might change.
coming
This
from
might
the
change.
more, and
I
maybe
think
cynical
cynical
is
is
not the
actually
right
right, though.
word.
I
Maybe
think
it's more critical.
I think cynical is right. I think that when you talk about the experiences we saw with the .com bust out, which was the very beginning
Yeah.
of my career,
Yep.
and then we had the XML bust out, and we had what was the other one? The automation tools, the frameworky, the test completes of the world, and all the
Yeah.
claims made. Then we had the Selenium claims. Then we had the continuous integration claims, the continuous delivery claims. And I'm a big fan of CI and CD.
Yeah.
It's solid third base hit, really good. But some of the claims they made were over the top. So
Yeah.
now it's like I am a little cynical. I'm a little like the dictionary definition, like, oh, I've seen this before, right? Um, what was your question?
Well, no, the question was like, what, as far as interest areas for you,
Oh
like
yes,
what are you looking at? What are you looking at in terms of, you
I'll,
know,
I'll give you one. I'll give you a
yeah,
real one that we're doing. I got to put that in the proposal. So right now I'm working with the client in the Midwest. I'm NDA'd pretty much about all the
sure.
things, but I don't think it is. No reasonable person would say it is a violation of any NDA for me to say it's a very big, complex product that you typically like take 6 months. And I think of big and complex as 6 weeks, but 6 months of training to really be a net positive producer on it. From a test perspective. That's long. I'm consulting a couple hours a week. I'm more high level, but they have this huge knowledge base that is so big that encompasses so many. I'm trying to think of a high level to say it. So many other third party partners, maybe. Um, that you can't get your arms around it and you don't know what to search for. It's a needle in a haystack problem. Everything you need is in the knowledge base. Everything you need is in the knowledge base,
Yeah.
but you can't find it. You know what to search for. So I like to say that comprehensive is the enemy of comprehensible. So what we're looking at doing is, can we throw everything, export everything to PDFs, and throw it into a GPT that is behind our firewall that we are running, that we stood up, so there's no information security problems, and then use it like a chat bot to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be, I mean, that if we succeed at that, we could compress that 6 months, like easily compress that 6 months to 5 to 4, possibly to 3 of ramping up.
Nice.
Now
That's
you
cool.
look, if you're paying $100 an hour for a contractor, and you just doubled their productivity in the first year, is that right?
Yeah.
Something like, that's significant.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think it was like when we talked about test automation, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, where it was like, let's create these Selenium scripts. Well, have you automated your build process? Have you automated your build pipeline? Can you create a virtual environment in one
Right.
text line of? Can you type in some stuff like one command and get a VM that has your
Yeah.
branch on it, and then gets you a URL so you can go test against that? No. Why are you writing Selenium code? Why?
Right.
Why are you writing? And we've done that. Most of the companies I worked with, they have something like, they're webby. They have something like that. So I think it's that similar non-intuitive, off the beaten path applications that are going to be some solid first, second base hits, and I really want to see that work. And well, like Cursor, Phil Kirkham said, I used Cursor to build the framework for playwright tests, not to generate me a million tests, but
Right.
just give me the thing that
Give me
plugs.
the basics. Yeah.
Give me the thing that plugs into Jenkins, that knows where my URLs are and knows
Yep.
where my secrets are and my passwords, so that then writing a test is really easy.
Right.
And I can do that in Visual Studio Code, and I can use Copilot to make that even faster. Bam.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a really good use case. I mean, I do use it like the Copilot for specifically when it comes to pipeline files. Like, I get it. YAML is not a rocket science to understand, but I don't have interest to have that YAML syntax. There is a tab issue and just the pipeline fails. Copilot, like, anything of that sort is really helpful for me to save that hours of debugging. Right. But
Yeah.
but Matt, you actually made me curious about knowledge base. So I'll talk about two quick things. So I don't know if you guys have seen Robo as an agent on Confluence and Atlassian and Jira. So in your own Confluence space of your org, you can now search using Robo because the search was not effective. So they built an AI agent to do search in a way you want it, or review your document or create a page, right? Kind of thing. So obviously knowledge base is the centerpiece, or is going to be the centerpiece of most of the orgs, because let's say you build million agents and LLMs and whatnot, but where is the documentation? How does it work? What does it mean? So we need to have, right?
So we agree, knowledge base is the core use case, and it's going to be the place. Why is it, except for customer service, why isn't anybody else talking about that? Why is it you and me?
Exactly. So I have a part two of my we actually got the right thing, and I have a part two of my argument. So around 7 years back, I was temporarily, moved to a small team which were building chatbots. I'm talking about 7 years back. And trust me, I was there for a couple of weeks, and my job was to help team build a huge Excel sheet of question and answer, and then come up with all the question answer in a org. And then we started, and this was a very huge org, number of employees were like massive. So we started to have that input and output for IT help desk. Hey, I need a cable. My monitor is not working. And this is obviously pre-COVID. So we were going to office 5 days a week. How about this thing, that thing? Can I get a request for accessing this folder? So we built a chatbot, and it was literally HTML mini, iframe on top of our HTML web page. Behind the scene, we just wrote few APIs to read those things. But then that chat bot in itself became a business. Today we know Chat GPT. Behind the scene, what it does is obviously more complex than Excel. But then the ideas were there. People were not having the tools to get it done faster, or in a meaningful way to explain to business, okay, this is what it does, this is what it says, right? So I think we have got more tools than we had 3 years back in our hands on our laptops to experiment. That's why I think our minds are opening up. We were not even talking about these things, right? And that's why we are finally moving away from that old kind of, automate and move on to what else. And as a human nature, I think we all are every day thinking about it pretty much, that what is the real use case? What is the business value? And interestingly, it will always be close to your business context, your personal life. I mean, you can have ChatGPT Enterprise version for just for you, but then is it useful? No, I would rather have a free license or a personal license, right? So the context really matters, and you don't want to be sending, unlimited, millions and billions of, code line of codes when you are doing your 1 hour weekend gig of, building something. But if you are in a company who has thousands of microservices and they want to build something to save those microservices from failing every hour or every minute, to build the observability stack, use cases would differ based upon the business context. That would be my kind of take on that. But yes, knowledge base, I think we now agree we have at least one solid agreed use case where let's focus on, kind of thing, right?
That is a space. It's funny that you mentioned that, because that is a space where I think microservices has always been kind of the double-edged sword as well, right? Because like we decided one day that making a whole lot of little things was way better than making a whole big thing, right? And that you could move quicker by making a whole lot of little things. But what people forgot was that you have to organize all the little things.
Organize it, yeah.
And that they have to, you still have to like make sure that all those little things are aware of all the other little things, and make sure of the little things that you have, so that you don't recreate the little things and have redundancy. And
Correct.
and then it became like the complexity just became that much higher, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, like, I actually see that's where I would like to see AI actually be used, is in documenting your microservices architecture, and laying out like the dependencies and which services are being called by what, and like those are the and then building the data off of that, right? Like building the trend data off of that to kind of show you over time what areas of your system, of your very complex system, are being utilized or not utilized, or having issues, or running into issues, running into errors, that kind of thing. Like I could see that being a much more
Yeah,
clear
I understand. You're talking about two sides of the microservices.
Yeah.
Obviously, um, how they are overall designed, and if there are thousands, can you put all thousand in one single Miro diagram, or I don't know, is that possible? And even if you do so, is there an easy way to ask me, okay, where does this microservice touch the whole
Right.
business? Does it
Right.
touch 10 points or 1 point, or how critical is
Right.
it? Like, how many services
Yeah.
are calling it? So is it like
Yeah.
a producer or is a consumer? Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of, I think there are a lot of open questions even developers sometimes are very
Yeah.
unable to answer, because if there are hundreds of microservices, a team of 7 developers would take care of 50, 70, right? Not all
Exactly.
hundred of thousands. So they are also
Correct.
having a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to this,
But
there should be a knowledge base
being
to
able
it.
to
Yeah.
give that information and provide that information, I mean, not just from you're right, from a developer perspective, but as well from a testing perspective.
Yeah. And
You're
testing
saying
perspective. Yeah.
you're saying a tool to go figure out what the heck is going on and represent it in a comprehensible way about our microservices and using AI to help figure that out.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that.
And not only just like not only just like from a documentation perspective, but from a conceptual, how is our system functioning? How are all of these little pieces that we've now put into play, right, functioning together, so that we understand, like, from a testing perspective, what that gives us is some data to utilize for what areas of that enterprise we end up focusing on most, what the dependencies are, where the risk is, right? So it allows you to do risk analysis. It allows you to understand where you should invest your effort. There can be some intelligent decision making around quality and testing that could come from that, as well as development.
Well, I'll give you an
Yeah.
interesting data point. So I worked at Social Text, which was the first wiki company. Before there was a wiki in SharePoint, we wrote wiki. Before Confluence was a thing, we wrote wikis. And what is interesting about them is it's an information architecture problem. So you'll have these 10 things you want to talk about, and then you'll find out the fourth one has 1,000 things underneath it, and the other ones don't. So from an information architecture discovery, and now you're locked in, and you have to refactor your wiki, and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, with microservices, I would submit we took an even more naive approach to an even more complex problem. And most of the people talking about architecture, like information architecture for microservices, were a bunch of weenies nobody listened to. We went and we did our own thing, and now it's a mess. So could AI help clean that up?
Oh, it's very hard. Oh, it's very hard. Yeah.
I mean, like, I'd like to believe that. I don't know that we even have the published data to go look at, to go figure it all out. What you could do, there might be some tools that there are tools that analyze all the packets that flow through the whole system.
There are, yeah.
Those tools, which they use some AI, they might be able to produce a document that then you send into ChatGPT that you interrogate to create something else. So AI might be part of that solution.
Might be part of the solution, yeah. But you reminded me of one of the team I was leading, the quality engineering, and they had Spotify tribe model, which in short is like any different team can have their own structure, their tooling, their tech stack, and they just have to build and they kind of deliver on their own kind of thing, right? And interestingly, one team, a dev team lead joined, and they said, you know what, I'm really good at Python, so everything we'll write in backend microservices would be Python. Another team already had Java microservices, and then few more. And interestingly, someone was writing in Ruby. But then these were microservices, and the whole thing of microservices, the tech stack shouldn't matter, because if your APIs are able to talk to each other, if you follow the JSON protocol, you have the same schema. It doesn't matter. But then in that context, going back to Gwen's question, all these microservices, the different tech stack, if an AI agent can help me answer my questions without going into the technology, would be great. But if you ask me, and this is the developer problem, all the places where I worked, where they had more than 50, 60 microservices, can you run the whole dev environment on your local? 90+% of the time, developers are unable to run things on local, because of which they end up deploying everything in QA environment or any lower environment, and then testers have to live with those broken environments which are not tested locally. The reason being they didn't have the infrastructure, because for even developing and running everything as a business locally, they have to talk to the cloud services, AWS, GCP, Azure, which will cost them. And to save that cost, a lot of worry is thrown over the wall, unfortunately, and that's where we become the hero, kind of heroes by finding a lot of defects. And if you want to go more technical, things such as circuit breaker, if you don't know, a microservice is talking to other microservice. It tries for 3 or 4 times, whatever your config is. If it doesn't, it just fails. Now, the failure of this one interaction, is it going to impact 10 more, 2 more, or none, is unknown. And that's why I said, Gwen, I liked your idea. Can someone tell me as a chatbot, like what does this microservice does? What if it
Right.
fails? What all it's talking to?
Yeah.
How, like from last 6 months, has it even been used?
Right.
So we can kind of get rid of it, right? So
Yeah.
I think there are really pretty good use cases around that.
Be cool. Yeah. It'd be cool to see
Yeah.
some advancement there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could go on for hours, but we are at the end of our hour. So we will let everybody go for today. But I'd like to thank my guests, Matt and Milan. And we had a couple of others on. Paul joined earlier. I think he ran into some technical difficulties. But Phil, Charles, everybody else who was able to join us on our threads, thank you for
Thank you.
participating. This is certainly the highlight of my week. And so I look forward to the next one. Matt and I are going to be working together on some content for the next year and putting together some coordinated roundtables and learnings from some of our experts. So we're excited to get that out in front of you. We'll talk a little bit more about that on our upcoming roundtable chat.
And if you are an expert with something to share, it doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 20 minutes. We want to do
Could be.
Exactly.
What we'd like to do is, here are 3 things you can do tomorrow that add value to your test organization. Don't require you to spend money, hire consultants, or do anything else. You can just do them. You don't need permission. You can just do them, and then we'll do a series. That's the current operating hypothesis. If you have a better idea, we'd love to hear from you too.
I like this. That was really good clickbait, if you have 3 things. Awesome. Thank you all for having me, and really good chat.
Always. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see y'all soon.
Bye-bye.